Yeah, we are on, baby. We are on. Got it. Got it. Yes. Welcome, 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 welcome. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to another episode of Change Your Mind, Change Your Thinking. I am your host, Troy Skinner. Next to me is my co-host, the man with the plan.
The dosage.
The dosage.
Antonio Dean.
Antonio Dean.
What's up, everybody?
What's up, everybody? How y'all doing? Thanks for joining us tonight. We have a very good topic. This is the second to last show, or is it? Yeah, second to last show
Of the year?
of the year.
I believe so.
We have tonight, and then we have Thursday. So we're ending this year off with a. Hey, I was thinking today. I don't really celebrate holidays, and I know you don't. But
Nope.
do you want to wear New Year hats on Thursday?
Sure. I wear a New Year hat. If we can get some.
Okay, all right. So
Some little party hats or some
yeah.
shit.
Let's do that, man. Let's do that. Let's do that.
I'm down.
Let's celebrate that this goddamn sick ass stupid year is over. I know for some of you it's been a great year. For some of us it's been a rotten year, but it's been what it's been, and we made it this far. And so we have to keep going. What's going on, Walker Boy? How you doing? Appreciate you, man. Hey, keep making those funny ass videos, man. Hilarious. So, welcome everybody to tonight's show. Tonight's show, if you hadn't already seen, is about lonely lonely as black people. But it's about loneliness. Tonight's show is about loneliness, and I think it's a very important topic. What's going on, everybody? Come on in. We're talking about loneliness tonight. It's a very important topic. We're going to go over a lot of things that some of you may not know about, and also recap a lot of stuff that some of you already do know about when it comes to loneliness. We're going to break down the root word of it, and we're going to talk about how to handle that. How to handle that thing called loneliness.
How not to be addicted to being lonely.
Yeah, and listen, we're going to get really deep on the topic of being alone and loneliness, because some people, that's kind of what we talked about a week ago or 2 weeks ago. A week ago about Twitch, right?
Yep.
How someone can be functional and still be lonely as hell, and you wouldn't know.
Very lonely.
Mm-hmm. And you wouldn't know. Before we start off the show, this here, I wanted to talk about how profound loneliness is to many of us. That there are songs about loneliness.
Yes.
Hundreds. If you go and you do a web search about loneliness, and songs pop up.
Songs and poems.
Poems, yeah. And you see that a lot of people are truly lonely. And when I'm laughing, I'm not laughing at the sense of being alone. I'm laughing at how jacked up it is that people can be so alone. Janet Jackson had a song, one of my favorite songs, actually, called "Lonely." I actually used to use it for the acting studio. It was a song that would evoke emotion for people. But in her lyrics, she says, "Feeling so alone and deserted, with people standing all around you. Should I trust someone? Should I stay off to myself? Alone with no one to talk to is such a helpless feeling." And then you have on the rock end, what's going on, Scott? You have on the rock end, you have someone like Eric Carmen. And he wrote a song called "All by Myself." And he says, "When I was young, I never needed anyone. And making love was just for fun. Those days are gone. Living alone, I think of all the friends I've known, but when I dial the telephone, nobody's home." Damn. All by myself, don't want to be all by myself anymore. All by myself, don't want to live all by myself anymore. Hard to be sure, sometimes I feel so insecure, and love so distant and obscure. Yeah. Listen, loneliness is a horrible thing. And, a lot of people experience it. When you hear some of these songs, it's just like, wow, they hit the root of what it is. So, artists have a sense of being connected to it more than anybody. So what we're going to do is get the definition of loneliness. And my my boy Antonio is about to read. I know y'all love him reading, so So where are we going? Let's see. Here you go. Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Sad because one has no friends or company. Without companions, solitary. Of a place unfrequented and remote. That's pretty straightforward. What else they got? No Wikipedia page. We can go with them real quick. A being without company. Cut off from others, not frequented by human beings, desolate, lonesome, producing a feeling of bleakness or desolation. And let's see if they got a Wikipedia. I'm pretty sure they do. Let's see. Loneliness is an unpleasant emotional response to perceived isolation. Loneliness is also described as social pain, a psychological mechanism which motivates individuals to seek social connections. It is often associated with a perceived lack of connectivity, a perceived lack of connection and intimacy. Loneliness overlaps and yet is distinct from solitude. Solitude is simply the state of being apart from others. Not everyone who experiences solitude feels lonely. As a subjective emotion, loneliness can be felt even when a person is surrounded by other people. Hence, there is no distinction between being alone and feeling lonely. Loneliness can be short-term or long-term. In either case, it can be intense and painful. Pretty straightforward.
Mm-hmm. Seems like Wiki been on it lately, man. They've been on it.
They're definitely putting it together right now.
They want that money. That's what it is. I have a strong feeling they'll end up charging like all these other things.
At some point?
At some
Probably.
point. It sucks, but, it's understandable. They're giving that good definitions that we've been reading lately. So, Antonio, question.
Yes, sir.
The dosage. Are you ever lonely? Do you ever feel alone?
Am I ever lonely and do I feel alone?
Mm-hmm.
In some ways, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just being someone who's not much like everyone else.
Okay.
Being someone who's not really of this this current era, enjoying the different conveniences of technology and how it affects us socially, and I don't always feel in good company.
Mm-hmm.
I don't always feel understood, so to speak. So it's a myriad of different, more, not necessarily in the physical sense, but more so in the social and you could say emotional sense.
Is a person that's lonely or alone, is that because they feel emotionally that they don't have someone or others to relate to? Or is it... Okay, so we were asking about this. Is being alone a thing of choice for people?
No, not always.
Okay.
Some people are involuntarily alone.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe others don't enjoy their company.
Mm-hmm. And they don't know it?
For whatever reasons those are.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then on the flip side, there are people who choose to be alone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say more, because a lot of times you hear the phrase being thrown around lately, antisocial.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly don't think there's anything wrong with... If you're the type of person where you feel like you don't want to be around people, there's nothing wrong with that. And we have to be very, very upfront about that with people, because people make you feel like there's something wrong with you if you like to be alone. Some people activate well. My godson used to have a phrase. He said, alone makes you strong. And, that was just... I think that's the name of one of his companies. But I agreed with that, because you could be alone in a group. Like,
yeah.
The Image Max studio group is alone. We're apart from, other people. Is that a good thing? Not all the time, because when we need help, who do we reach out
Not
to?
having a network.
Mm-hmm.
That's not necessarily on us, though. That's the
Right.
infrastructure. And
Yeah,
shit.
of course. But there's, for you guys who are listening, if you're a loner, you hear that as well, that phrase being told, that some people are loners. If you're a loner, there's nothing wrong with you if you feel like you like to be alone. I can get a lot of things done by being alone. Yet alone, um, for some people, it's a thing of emotional stress and strain, or they want to be around people. Like so if you're a sociable person and you're alone, that would probably be more damaging than if you are antisocial and you're alone.
Correct.
You know what I mean? So what we want from you guys, there's two things we want from the audience tonight. If you're watching us and you want to be a part of the show, the first thing is we want your questions on what you feel about being alone, like any questions you may have that you want to ask us. That's number one. And then number two, put in the comments one song that resonates with you about loneliness. Okay, so you got two things you should do. First, if you feel alone, or if you talk about how you deal with loneliness. Are you antisocial? Are you sociable? Talk about loneliness in some capacity. And then the second thing is to put a song. It could be your favorite song, or just a song one song that speaks about loneliness. And why I'm using a song is because it's more accessible to people. More people listen to music, whether it's rap or something like that. I went online before the show and I looked and saw a whole bunch of different songs that talked about loneliness. Loneliness or alone wasn't always in the title. It was just maybe a song about alone, like the Beatles song Eleanor Rigby, which is a favorite song of mine because the chords are so dark. But their chorus is look at all the lonely people, and then you talk about Eleanor Rigby, how alone she is. I always laughed and cried at that song because I was just like, man, it's just to see that they wrote this song about people being lonely. Or Roy Orbison, only the lonely. It's like these people were able to dynamically, as artists, write songs about loneliness. Man, it's like it's profound, man.
It's something that resonates with most humans.
Yeah. We go back to biblical understanding where God said, man should not be alone. He just didn't mean about having someone to love you. Because I think people confuse that a lot. They feel like, I'm lonely because I don't have a soulmate, or I don't have someone that loves me back in the sense of eros, the sexual, sensual sense. Which is why sometimes you hear people, I was lonely, so I had a kid, and I thought it would make things better. Which, that's jacked up. You should never have children to fill your need, because when we understand what being a parent is the highest level of sacrifice. And so, you're eventually your child is going to leave you.
Correct.
unless they're what do you call them, adult children, and they stay with you forever. And
that's a cultural thing.
Yeah, it can be, definitely. Which, that's jacked up in itself, that you expect a child to drop everything and to be there for you in your life. Hey, Daff, what's going on, by Finesse? That's a dope name. Welcome to the show, guys.
Let's see.
Somebody had a comment?
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on. Says, can be, I'm assuming loneliness. Someone can choose loneliness because the accessibility of decent people is trash. I'd rather be lonely than surround myself with insufficient company. Some choose to take themselves out of situations until the right people comes around, because you must be selective on how and who you share your energy with. Other side, sometimes people don't choose it due to lose. Sometimes you lose those people. Sometimes people suffer from certain anxieties and they don't choose to not be around people. Their physical, mental, or even emotional state separates them from people. You'll still be lonely with children if they aren't fulfilling the adult or adequate intimacy you need.
Very wise person. Very wise statement, and that's very true. I think a lot of people get to, so I don't know how old that person is, but I think a lot of people get to a certain age where they realize that. You know, when you go through life as a child, you're taught. Especially, I've met people who were single parent, children in a household. Right? They didn't have brothers or sisters, and so when they get to that age of being able to get out amongst their peers, they're always fighting to have good friendships because they didn't have any brothers or sisters. And you hear them say that, hey, you know, I was a single child, I didn't have any brothers or sisters, and they're reaching for that, they're looking for that. And then when they get older, there's something inside of them where they always feel like they have to be around somebody. You know,
it's a relationship that they didn't get to experience.
yeah, they're looking to replace those situations
Those types of bonds.
It's like, yeah, some kinds of bonds, and that also can be troublesome though, because what happens is by them doing that, you know, they're too much. You know what I mean? They're too much for those people. So it's like a lot of times who we are. I've learned that there has to be a balance in all your relationships on how you deal with people. You can't overburden people with wanting to be too much. And you have to, you know, birds of a feather flock together. You have to find people who have similar interests and they see things similar. And that's kind of tough because everybody is looking for what the world tells them they should have. That's why a lot of people are actually lonely, because you look at the commercialism, especially here in America, right? You got to have a car, you got to have a house, you got to have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, you got to be married or have kids. You know, you got to have a whole bunch of friends or else something's wrong with you. The way the world makes it seem, especially in this American society, is that there's something wrong with you if you don't have any of those things. If you know, the famous phrase for older women is "you're a cat lady," because some women love to be around cats and or dogs rather than be around humans because humans are a problem. And I agree. You know, I always say my end game is a house with a lake in front of it and a wolf dog and just some sword training. I'm gonna be happy. That's my peace. You know, and anybody want to be around that, you better pick up a sword and train with me. And you better respect my wolf dog, because if you don't respect him, he may not respect you. You see what I'm saying? So I don't have a problem being by myself. But I had to go on and embark on a journey of understanding why the world makes you feel like there's something wrong with you if you want to be by yourself.
Well, I think it's because by far and large, human interaction, human life, you could even say purpose here on the planet, is relationships.
Mm-hmm.
We're supposed to interact with one another and build, create homes, however that be, but homes and families, mm-hmm. community together. Mm-hmm. You know, just like any other animal. It's not necessarily natural mm-hmm. to want to be completely alone. Mm-hmm. That's not our primal nature. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Our primal nature and attitude in life is building and sustaining relationships. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. The problem becomes through commercialism and through social psychological programming. People are taught to believe that there is something wrong with them if they feel alone. There's a difference between being alone and being lonely. Huge difference. Alone, as I said, can help you. It's like this. When people break up out of relationships, I know people who go from one relationship right to another. You know, it's an ongoing joke when families get together and it's like, that the one from last year? Right. You know, and it's like, no, I better not say nothing because I was about to say something. And it's like, because this person jumps from person to person because they don't want to be lonely or they don't want to be alone.
Both.
Wow. So, with that being said, is that a good thing? Because are you ever getting time to be by yourself to figure out who you truly are so that you can know what you're bringing to someone else?
I think it's an intimacy issue.
Okay.
It's for for a lot of humans, I believe a majority of humans have an issue with the different tiers of intimacy within different types of relationships, and they can be terrified of creating and working on and contributing to those sort of bonds with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a responsibility. It's not a chore, but it's a task of sorts, and it takes a lot of energy to be that way with many different people. And some people, they would choose not to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because of the years of experience that they've gone through.
I think because of the responsibility in general.
Mm-hmm.
We're taught, even there are children who are afraid of intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
There are adults, obviously, who live an entire life of not actually exploring and taking the time to embrace those types of intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tall order in the social sense,
Mm-hmm.
you know, to be that way with people, man. And then there's a psychological inhibition of some sort that goes along with not wanting to even involve yourself in those kind of relationships as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whatever those inhibitions are, whether they're due to childhood or whatever, but it starts off natural. You know, most people can't even keep eye contact. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they feel uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Claudia said, Key to Your Heart. That's the song by All for One. Cold winds blowing, confusions growing, signs showing nobody's home. Where'd you move? Where'd you go? The beautiful song has very sad lyrics. It does. It does. I don't think there's any song, even the comedic songs about loneliness, that aren't sad, really. You know, I know Journey has a song that is pretty good called Ask the Lonely. So let's talk about loneliness when it comes to falling out of love or coming out of a relationship.
Okay.
Why, you know, when people have friction and they don't get along, they're in a relationship, you know, and let's include friendship, not just marriages or boyfriend and girlfriend, but you're in a relationship with someone and it doesn't work out, and then you break apart and you go your separate way, and then now you're dealing with the loneliness. What do you think that loneliness actually is? Is it not having? I always look at it and equate it to memories, because memories are who we are. The human being's mind is a collection of time, and those times incorporate memories, the experiences. Because I always say life is about experiences, the things you experience with those people you experience it with. And so is that person lonely because they miss that other person, or they miss what they did with that person?
I think it's just the weight of that, however long the relationship had been and how impactful the relationship was on them. You know, whether that be friendship or romantic or otherwise. When something like that is severed, man, it's a type of death.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's something that you definitely grieve and you mourn. You're mourning the memories, the loyalty, the acceptance, all of the different emotions that those memories bring about, man. I think that's what people are feeling in those moments, because that's something that those are different sensations that they'll never get again. Not with that person,
Mm-hmm.
you know. It feels different.
Mm-hmm.
All of the happiness that we experience, you know, with different friends and different relationships, it's never the same, you know. So when you lose one, or you know, are forced to move forward, or maybe, you know, two people outgrow one another, whatever it is. You know, it's sad, and it does hurt. That's what I believe that they're feeling, and what they're looking to hold on to. You know, running away from being alone or feeling lonely.
You know, the problem becomes this, and I think people have to start being a lot more honest with themselves. me myself personally, I've grown to become a person where I'm a lot more careful about who I allow into my life, number one.
Mm-hmm.
And then number two, how I treat those people. And it's a thing of understanding that if we say the highest level of sacrifice is love, love is the highest level of sacrifice. If you say love is sacrifice, then there are things sometimes that I think people need to be more aware of before they embark on those actions. So, say for instance, you're in a relationship. I was watching The Best Man, the last chapter. It's really good, right? Really good. I've always loved the Best Man series, but this last uh, project of The Best Man is like I think 8 episodes of 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 what's going on with the group, and you see all the different relationships go through different things. Really good writing. They all go through different things, and you see a moment where Harper, I consider him the main character, the best man, but Harper goes through a bout of loneliness, right? And it's so damn cool, man. His boys end up coming over one at a time. They don't say nothing. They just come on in there, and one brings some food, another one brings some liquor, another one gets the card tables together, and they all sit there, and they're like, "Well, come on, fool, let's go, nigga. Like, let's they get him out of his loneliness.
Mm-hmm.
You know, is it a point where who we are as human beings, we have to know ourselves to where when that loneliness is about to come around you know exactly what to do to get up out of it. Even if you experience, say for instance, it hits you, because sometimes it hits you, you don't even realize you're going through it. You just realize that something's not right with me, right? And is there a point where you get to, because Harper is in his mid-40s at this point, you know what I'm saying, and he's experiencing, she takes his kid all the way to Ghana, so he can't do nothing about it, and he just gets in the house and just, Is there a point where, as a man or as a human being, you learn to deal with that form of loneliness a lot better?
I think that's just accepting the relationship that another human allows you to have with them.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always going to be full access. It's not always going to be happiness associated with dealing with different relationships overall. I don't think it's something. I don't think it's anything to learn and to deal with necessarily, but more so building up a certain sense of maturity in the things in dealing or understanding and processing the things that you don't have control over.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But isn't that that you said maturity? I think that's because, from the outside we could look at someone and think that they're lonely or that they're alone, but they could be fine, But then some of us would be quick to be like, "Oh, you're fooling yourself," because they don't have the things that most of us feel like it's what's necessary to not be lonely. So,
well, then we start digging into the area of different types of depression.
Okay.
Clearly, right?
Okay.
That's more so what that sounds like.
But could that be confused with being bored? Because people can say, "Well, I was bored," and then some people confuse boredom with being lonely. Which I think they're two separate things for sure. Like when people say that they're bored, I'm like, in this day and age, like
that's dealing with a dislike for monotony.
Yeah, in this day and age, what? But then again, when you're the type of person like I'm a hyper creative. You're a hyper creative. You know what I mean? I know several hyper creatives in my life, and this is people who they always got something going on. They're always doing something. Lady Muse said, Harper was messy as hell the entire series. They all were messy, Lay. They were all messy. You know what I'm saying? You know, Robin went and did some. That was craziness what she did at the end. But you know, yeah. I mean, when you look at someone saying that they're bored, and I always say, well, how is that something that comes from part of your personality of who you are to where you're like I said, you're a hyper creative. I am a hyper creative. Like you know, and basically what a hyper creative guys is Susan Rogers, who was Prince's engineer. She wrote a book on musical talent and what it really is. And one of the things that she talks about is that the average person has a gate, right? And a gate opens and closes when it comes to creativity. And she said Prince was a hyper creative. It never closed. They'd be sitting there, record something, it's time to go home. And on the way driving home, she'd get a page and she'd pull over and she'd be like, what's going on? He's like, can we go back in and record again? You know, and it was like, you know, we just pulled 48 hours. You know, it just, the gate, which is wrong, what, you know, some people would consider it's flawed for some of us, doesn't shut. So you can go from this, you can go from that, you can go from this. Like you leave the show tonight, you're going home, and then you're pulling, you know, 10 hours on learning new things and creating new things and doing new music and on your computer. You never stop. And so then your sleep schedule is off, or you don't sleep.
Typically, yeah.
Like Prince didn't sleep, you know, and he was odd in that. So that's what a hyper creative is. So why am I saying this? Because some of you out there are hyper creatives, and to be a hyper creative, you have to understand that first off, a lot of people are never going to be on your level, ever. They are not going to be on your level. And so people will misconstrue that as you being by yourself all the time. Well, they've got to be alone. They've got to be lonely. Right? You know, not knowing that if at any time you can stop everything you're doing and say, hey, man, let's go do this. At any time.
Yeah.
Right? So is it an issue that people would misconstrue that? Because we're talking about a very serious subject. You know, there are people who are lonely and alone, and we want to make sure that they understand the difference between being bored and being lonely. Because bored is a thing of people feeling like they're not doing something because they don't have people around them.
Well, not even necessarily that. They could feel unfulfilled in their life.
Mm-hmm.
They could be not excited by much anymore. Again, they're fighting monotony. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there are many different reasons why someone could feel bored in their life, but as far as the loneliness, there are many different reasons for people to feel alone, man.
Mm-hmm.
You know, regardless of what it is that they're doing in their life. I don't even think it has anything to do with boredom necessarily. You can feel alone just in your thoughts and your approach.
Okay, well,
your approach in life.
yeah, elaborate more on that, because that's a difference of, okay, that's a difference than not being in a relationship or having someone to spend time with. And I think a lot of that, like I said, I attribute a lot of that. I attribute a lot of that to society and how society has this false perception of what they feel you should be.
Right.
You know, and like when I was very deep in the church and going to you know, services, man, and you would see those people in there running around looking for a mate. And it was part of the church's fault, because they were like, we want to see married people up in here having kids and stuff like that. Well, you know, even the Bible says if you can be alone, because you give more to the church by being alone. There's nothing wrong with being alone.
No, but that's, you know, there's a certain sense of community building.
Right.
When
Fine.
You know,
fine.
When you have groups like that coming together.
Absolutely. But listen, I believe that a person is mature. And Michael, I'm going to get to what you're saying, because you got some real good stuff saying there. This brother got an amazing book that I'm going to be reading soon. I believe that you said the word maturity, and I'm going to focus on that. The reason why people have problems in their relationships, either with, you know, the intimate relationship, sexual relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, family, kids. People have problems in their relationships because they do not know themselves. And so when you get with someone else, you're looking either to control that person or coax them into being something you feel they should be, and they're not going to ever be what you want them to be. But if you know who you are, you can work within the bounds of what's necessary to have a great relationship. And they even talked about that with Harper, because Harper and Robin went to therapy, and they put it all on the table, and he did his best to make a difference, but it wasn't enough for her. And it all became a thing of she was looking for something that he couldn't give her. Although she blamed him, which is what a lot of women do nowadays to men. You're not good enough. You're not giving me what I need. And it's like it has nothing to do with what he can give you. It has everything to do with what you feel you need and how far you've come in life, and you've changed your thought process. So when you hear women say, well, I supported you, it's always been about you, but that's a reciprocated thing. You never starved.
Right.
You had a child. He never stopped her from doing anything she wanted to do. The problem was she was more, in her mind, she was more encouraging about what he was doing than he was about her. And that became an issue. But it was more than that. Later on, you see it was more than that.
Well, so to the point of people not knowing themselves, is there what is the best way for a person to figure themselves out other than live life and interact with other people? That's
it. Time.
Whether that be alone and in solitude or socially.
Right, but the problem becomes when you make. So in essence, when you make decisions that are life-changing for more than just yourself, right? Decisions that are life-changing, you got to be careful, because that anytime you're making a decision that, stuff like having children is a long-term decision. That's not something that you could spend a year or two on and it's over. That's a lifelong thing for the life of that child in your life.
Correct.
And so if you haven't researched enough of yourself to say, you know what, maybe even getting to a point where I don't want to have kids. Why? Because I know who I am now. And I know that I can't give that child what would be deserving. But there are some people that can get to that space and say, hey, I know this is what I want. I'm gonna be an amazing father or an amazing husband or amazing, the best friend that I can be. You know what I'm saying? That takes time. It takes time to get to that space. And a lot of times we throw ourselves into these situations and fall on our face and get up and be like, oh, I'm gonna try it again. And it's like, no. There's a point where you have to be mature. I love that word. To the point where you say, you know what? Let me spend some time by myself. Let me figure out the things about myself that have gotten me into these situations. Not just about the other person, because people are quick to blame shift, right? It ain't me. It's dumb. It's dumb. It's dumb. Yeah, but then you have to figure out why you have a problem with what they got going on.
Well, so is there an issue with people not knowing who they are?
Yes and no.
And if there is, what is it that people should do? Other than what we've already been doing, is kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
We're kind of getting into that gray area. At least to me, it's a gray area of arrogance in humans. To think that we could find a solution to things like this.
Well, I mean, I'm just coming from a place of wisdom, which is basically, there's a point where you say, you know what, I don't want anybody to have to put up with my shit.
Maybe.
And that's, to me, that's just the more elevated way of looking at things. It's more of a an empathetic way of looking at things, because it's like, pain is very horrible. Pain, to me, pain that is caused by you to someone else, if you're a person with a conscience, is worse than paying for someone causing it to you. Because if you start to understand that people are assholes, like we're shit, we're nothing, we're assholes, which people say is a nihilistic viewpoint of human beings, but it is, because human beings are fuck ups. We will fuck up. We are going to fuck up. Like to think that you're not going, because you're flawed, that you're not going to fuck up. That, it to me, is more arrogant than to say, you know what, I'm a fuck up, and I need to work more on me to understand why certain things trigger me. Because I believe that things are triggers. Like, certain things are triggers. And if we understand that most people can't communicate, which is why there's therapy and people that go to therapists.
And well, that's the issue with intimacy.
Yeah, we talked about that before.
Yeah.
So if we understand that, then we say, okay, well, what are some of the ways? I wouldn't say it's the most, the only way, but what are some of the ways? And sometimes it's just like you break up from a relationship. You need to be by yourself. Like, people jump right into another relationship. And I say, sometimes you just need to be by yourself to think about who you are and what you're going through in order to be able to not make the same mistake. Because what we always say about madness, doing the same thing and expecting a different result.
But for people being alone in the world, is that not enough?
That there are people alone, you're saying?
Well, I'm saying you're already alone in the world because you're figuring out life by yourself, most of us, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you might have family, you might have friends, but dealing with life as an adult, you're not guaranteed a support system. Most children are guaranteed a support system. Not all.
Yeah.
But for the most part, children are guaranteed some sense of reinforcement and support behind them. By the time you're 18, and especially in the Western world, it ain't the same, everywhere in the world, but especially the Western world, you got to leave home when you're 18. Everyone's not afforded, shelter and such, well into their 20s. A lot of us, and especially just being a part of a capitalist society, we don't have the backing necessary for what a majority of us would consider to be success, right? Since that's already what you're dealing with, that's a huge kind of alone. That's a deep one. How much more alone do you need to be?
That's a good question.
That's kind of what I'm asking, is how much more alone do you need to be? I think that's already the baseline.
Yeah, I think it.
Do you not need motherfuckers that you can call and talk to? Some maybe not even a group of people, but one friend at least, something. A sounding board that understands you, or at the very least accepts you. How alone does somebody need to be, and is it not an illness or some extreme form of or psychological form of masochism of some sort, or what I'm saying? Everybody wants to be a martyr for different reasons and all of this kind of shit. How much more alone does someone in the Western world, at the very least, really need to be?
Yeah, no, that is a great question. Your thing is lighting up, but hold on, because this is an important topic. Michael Irvin Walker, boredom only occurs when you think you're supposed to be or want to be somewhere else. When you come into maturity or presence, awareness, that you are always exactly where you're supposed to be. I think my friends and family from Ohio don't understand the hyper-creative that has jumped out full blast, especially in 2022. It's time to go.
I got a lot, so I'm truncated a bit. Let's see. I've voluntarily and involuntarily been alone, as well as been in relationships dealing with craziness but keeping my spiritual self intact. I could accept being alone when necessary and still have faith that I'll be fulfilled at the right time, so I don't find myself wasting my energy where it isn't desired or appreciated.
Yeah, it sounds like we got some grounded people in the audience tonight, man. hopefully, well, like I said, Michael Irvin Walker, he's got a book out, man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna read it, and from what he's been reading chapters of it, so you seem to be pretty grounded in your thoughts, and I think the same thing for your guest over on the other side. It sounds like people, but it's a maturity thing, and that's the word that you said. I think the maturity thing, and it's like a lot of times when you see people lonely, you're lonely in your adolescence, right?
Yeah.
Like for me, I was lonely as a child, primarily because of a lot of the molestation and just not knowing. And then as I became a teenager, I was still alone. I was lonely. I wasn't definitely alone in martial arts. Martial arts did something for me.
You were finding community, finding structure, finding self-esteem.
That's what it was. It was finding self, because martial arts is the path to self-knowing, right?
It's easier to do that around people who are looking for similar things.
Yeah. Well, yes and no, because I mean it was still a jungle in martial arts for me.
Yeah,
I mean I had Mr. Jackson, I had my sensei, but that was pretty much about it. And my god brother, because in your teens, right, you're still a little lonely inside because you're dealing with things you don't understand. You don't understand. I don't think there's any teen that truly understands what it is to be going through puberty. Like even the ones that are maybe blessed with a little bit more like facial hair, or they get built. So loneliness or being alone is terrible in high school for people.
Yeah.
Because even if you have a lot of friends and stuff, you still go home, and whatever your home life is, you're dealing with that.
And then everybody's getting ready to break out into the world as well.
Yeah. To harp more on what you were saying about how much alone should someone be, that's a real hard thing to really figure out, because I don't know. I guess for me, being a hyper creative, after I got the martial arts, my times of being lonely was very, very low. And especially in my late teens, because I was the type where I was always doing a lot of different things. I was in pursuit of my music career. I was training to be better in martial arts. I was working maybe 2 or 3 jobs. By the time I was in my 20s, I was like, I really don't want to be around people, because I was working for the public, you know what I'm saying? In all my jobs, I worked at a grocery store and a video store at the same time. Then I taught martial arts. Yeah. So there's even now, like well into this age that I am now, there's times where I'm like, oh God, like just have a moment where I don't have to talk, or a moment where I'm not bothered by anybody, especially if you're living with people. It's like it feels great. And some people are like, yeah, but that's just temporary. You'll get lonely. No, nope, I don't. But that's me. Like I said, I'm a hyper creative. There's always something that I can do. Now, the problem would become this, right? This is the irony of it all. I'm a hyper creative, right? And why do we create? We create because that's what our passion is. That's who we are. But we also want to affect others. So imagine if you're in a world, you're hyper creative, and there's no one to affect. Then I think your ass would be lonely.
Well, and that's what I'm saying,
No one to read your books, no one to listen to your music, no one to watch you act.
So that's why I said, man, how lonely do you need to be?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's one of the things Patrice O'Neal said. He said, we want to be alone, but we don't want to be by ourselves.
That's very true. That's the Twilight Zone episode of the guy, Meredith, what's his name? Burgess Meredith, where he wants to read his books, right? He wants to read his books. And so he's this little nerdy guy with glasses, and he just loves books. And his wife is screaming at him all the time, you're always in those books. Yeah. And then one day he sleeps through the nuclear war. And he wakes up. He wakes up, and there's nobody. And he's just like, He goes, where do you think he goes first? The library.
Right.
And he realized, he's like, I got all the time in the world. I got all these books. Oh, man. And then he takes his glasses down for a second and they get broken. And that's the end of the episode. He says, I had all the time in the world to read all those books. And now there's nobody. It's just him and these books that he can't read.
You can't even read them.
The irony of it. But you're right. You know, like, how alone should we be? And I think that that's a personal thing. I think that boils down to you knowing more of yourself and what you need out of the world. I think a lot of times people are always looking for what they want out of the world rather than what they need out of the world. And the more you work on that and start to realize, okay, what do I need to activate daily? What do I need? I need good friends. You know, I need a great relationship with whoever I live with or whoever lives with me. You know, everybody wants to be able to pay their bills, get from A to B, be able to be safe. You know, they want to make it throughout their days. You know, we all breathe easy once we pull up into the driveway, no matter how bad that day was outside of the house, right? Lady Mew said, creativity is its own escapism. Absolutely. It sure enough is. It sure enough is. I mean, listen, being a survivor of child abuse, molestation mostly, you fall into music and you fall into films and you fall into a form of escapism mentally, whether it's through reading books. I did it all. I read books.
You're occupying your time, though.
Yeah, and your mind, because, you know, I think for people who endure traumatic experiences, for them, it may be alcohol, or it may be drugs, or it may be, you know, behavior that is, you know, a little off kilter. To me, the more positive, if you want to call that escapism, is being a creative, creating something, you know, using your mind and your art to create, your hands to create, whether you do woodwork or something, sculpt, art, write. And because I wrote short stories, which helped me to become a great screenwriter, all of those things. You put a hyper creative in a room and give them some basic tools, man. You know what I mean? It's just thinking all day until it breaks. Like etch your sketch, remember that?
Yep.
Till it doesn't work no more. And you gotta
shake it up and restart.
Yeah, you got to find something else. You know. What should we be mindful of in regards to feeling alone? Like, what are the signs that you're feeling alone or that you're lonely? Because, like I said, boredom is not the same as being alone or being lonely. It's not the same.
No.
What should we be, like, paying attention to? Because, like, I can't remember what it is to feel lonely, honestly. It's like being nervous. People always say, oh, don't you get nervous? No. And I remember when my acting coach used to say this. She said, you'll get to a point where one day you won't be nervous. And when I say that, people go, you don't know what you're talking about. And I got to a space where I just, like, I've spoken in front of 100,000 people. No shaking, no nerves. Just get out there. I always say if you don't give a fuck, right? That's the highest level for me. Like, I don't give a fuck. Like, really don't. Like, people say it all the time, I don't give a fuck, but they really do. Like, when you say, I don't give a fuck, and you really don't. Right. You know what I'm saying? That's that level there. And so I always say this to people. You have to be willing to know that that person can go, that you can lose that person. If they can go, then that helps you to be one step ahead of knowing that loneliness is going to come, because maybe this is the person that filled up your time. You know, because we have that sometimes. It's the specific people that fill up our time. And I've learned that a lot of times you shouldn't put that burden on that one person. I went through that with my godbrother when he had found the love, one of the loves of his teenage life. And before that, we spent all the time with each other. And just like with Mark in high school, he was the one that I hung out with all the time, you know. But you go off and you find love, and your friends, they find love, and then they're not there no more, and you start feeling lonely, you know what I'm saying? But around that time for me, I guess I escaped that, other than my god brother, because I wasn't lonely anymore. But that wasn't until I got to martial arts, you know. But my god brother, I did that one time, that summer, I was like, man, he was with his girlfriend, spending his time with her.
What about being a part of a culture that promotes habits and behaviors and attitudes that pretty much poises everyone to be ready to be nothing but lonely in old age?
Yeah.
You know, everyone promoting cutting each other off and having particular types of attitudes towards one another for different reasons about who likes what, and, you know.
Do you think social media attributes a lot of that?
I don't know. I honestly don't know where that comes from, man.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, you know, being a part of the age where contact with another person is instantaneous.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not a job. It's not work to get in contact with anyone these days.
Mm-hmm.
But we're a part of a culture that pretty much promotes, you know, behaviors that will endam a large portion of us to end up lonely.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
especially at older age.
Not being able to get along with one another, not being able to sustain or even establish communities at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Because it turns into a thing of people are proud to be whatever it is that's forcing them to truly be alone. And to truly be alone is you're up in your old age and you have no one that you can relate to, no one that you can talk to, no one that cares to even interact with you for long periods of time,
Mm-hmm.
right? Is that an issue?
Yeah. Yeah, that's tough. I mean, I don't think people take account into planning their lonely years. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of times the reason why is because you don't realize that you have to keep up with the times. Right? It's not about staying young. It's not about, okay, I got to be hip with knowing what's going on or watch the news.
Mm-hmm.
It's about knowing how you fit into the scheme of things. What are you able to contribute to the community or to others around you, right? Because I think when you look at older people or elderly people, they all want to feel like they're worth something, right? But you don't see that with the guy that owns, you know, the Denver Broncos.
Right.
You know, and people will be like, well, he's got a lot of money. Well, no, he owns the fucking Denver Broncos. So you're going to be around this man for whatever reason.
Yeah.
You know, whether you want to get close to the football team or you want to be able to get on his yacht or you want to be, did you see that recently? We'll talk about it on Thursday. But, you know, the older guy that owns the Denver Broncos, it was a black guy that was getting accosted by all these other team fans, and he invited the guy to his box. Black guy up there.
Oh, skybox or whatever.
Yeah, up in the box. He was like, yo, so he was like, I really appreciate how you handle those other fans. And, you know, why don't you come and be in the box with us? That's a cool-ass older man. Everybody want to be, even the young chicks in the 20s still want to be around that old man. If they can latch onto him and marry him and then get his money, that's maybe their thought process. So you got to have things in your older age that people feel, oh, okay, not just the old knowledge, right? Not just the old knowledge, right? You go, like I always use my mom as an example. My mom knows old Hollywood. Mm-hmm. We were sitting down the other day eating, and she was like, you know this movie, right? And I recognized some of the actors in it, but she knew the name of the movie. She knew all the actors in it and was just pointing that stuff out. Like, man, she's an archive of that. Now it's like, okay, use that. Not just for me, right? But for other aspects of your life and other people that you can, join a thespian club, join a club where it's this movie, you know what I mean? And I think that's something that people need to pay attention to for your older age.
So you're saying as far as getting older and maybe not having something to show for your old age.
It's the highest level of loneliness because you don't feel like you fit in anywhere. And you want to be of worth. You want to be of value. And a lot of times I don't think people feel like that when they get older. I think they feel like, oh, all my friends are gone and everybody's leaving. It's a different time. And it's like, yeah, but time is what you make it. And I've learned that. Like, I do I reminisce about things? Yeah. But I also know that the world is fucked up. So I'm not, listen, I'll give you a prime example. My mom and I was listening to old Eurythmics. I don't know if any of y'all out there know about the Eurythmics. Great 80s band. Annie Lennox in the 90s was still around. She still sings. I listen to a lot of older music because it's well made. I'm not looking to be up there doing the Cuff It challenge. I don't give a fuck about Beyonce and Cuff It. I'm not going to get up there and do the stupid dance. So
Kraft.
Right. So is it a thing of me being? Do I know that I'll always be able to contribute? I'm working on that now. So in my older age,
contribute to society or
anything and anyone.
Okay.
Anything and anyone, and I think a lot of people, even the people listening right now, don't realize that one day you will be older. I'm not gonna say old because I think old is such a it's just a throwaway
whatever
word.
comes with that, yeah.
Yeah, but an older person, whether you're in your 50s or 60s or 70s, you make it all the way up to. There's a clip of this older woman, black woman. She's 90 years old. She made it to 90, and she got her little cane.
Oh yeah.
You see
We're looking at that. Yeah,
man, that's what I'm talking about. You couldn't tell her shit, and they
and everybody in the room appreciated her for whatever reasons that they appreciated her, Now, probably at the baseline for seeing that means that if they make it to 90, they can still be walking around and be all right too.
That's my point. And so, does she have moments of being lonely? We don't know, because the thing is, for some people, losing all that was in that era is what causes them to be lonely.
Yeah.
For some people, they don't have that because they're still active and they still got it going on. Or for some people, it's, well, I don't have nobody, so I'm lonely. That's not an issue for me.
We might have to dig into this because now I'm wondering, the more that we talk about it, is there a study of the different types of loneliness? Right? Because that last one is I think is a big category. And I wouldn't know what to call it, so we didn't look at that. But it seems like one of those things associated with what I was talking about earlier for myself and why I feel alone sometimes. Mm-hmm. I was born in '94, but I kind of grew up with my parents. The world that they showed us was still kind of the '70s and the '80s. Mm-hmm. And by the time middle school and high school and everybody else has MP3s and cell phones and all of this kind of shit, I'm still with a tape player. Mm-hmm. And, didn't have a CD player, none of that kind of shit, Mm-hmm. So the world to me right now, I'm pretty confident that I'm seeing it through the same, or at the very least similar glasses to what my parents are seeing it through. Mm-hmm.
Out of place, out of time.
Yeah. They're and they're managing, they're getting it and all of that shit. But overall, seeing the world change so much, and a lot of the things that seem like basic human level, or seemed of basic level importance to humans, have practically been washed away. That can kind of make you feel alone because you look, especially, and it seems like nobody cares about much of any fucking thing today. All the way down to even different parts of reality, people just don't even fucking care about. Mm-hmm. And common sense reality, realism, all of these different things are being rewritten and redefined. And I don't know if that's a normalcy as humans age in general, or if it's something that's hyper evolving, you know, as we get more technology and conveniences in this world.
Yeah, I've learned to appreciate all of it. Like I just honestly I have a very low viewpoint of humans. Like honestly, like I love people and I've seen greatness in people, you being one of those people.
Thank you.
The capability that people have in giving and loving and building, you know, because I'm very big on building. Your thing is lighting up, boy, and they're commenting. But I don't expect much, which makes it easier because then it's like, all right, well, what am I? I'm always concentrating on what I got going on and what I'm doing. It makes it a lot easier for me. Michael Irvin Walker said, Led Zeppelin, Steely Dan, Gladys Knight and the Pips, The Gap Band, Minnie Riperton, The Emotions, Angel, all in on older music. Yeah, man, listen, older music is great. Older music is great. Nowadays, I hear samples of a sample of a sample, and I'm just like, damn. I remember when they said that was going to happen. Does that bother me? No, because I got my own, you know, collection of what I listen to. You know what I'm saying? I can be in a room because I appreciate music. I could be in a room and hear what other people got going on and appreciate that moment of what they got going on because I love music. It's just like with film. Film sucks nowadays, but you know, thank God for something like The Best Man Last Chapter. You know, what you guys saying?
Oh, I'm still listening to these, man. It's a bunch.
Let's dig in. Let's see what they got going on.
Let's see. We had Chris. Someone says isolate to elevate.
Oof. Okay.
You know. Now, hold on, man. You know, I always got stand white on the letters is white. Let me zip my shit up real quick.
Right? Reflection.
All right, let's see. That makes it a little easier. Being alone is therapeutic if you take advantage of that time in a way suitable for you. I personally have never jumped from one relationship to the next, and yes, most that do that may have emotional baggage they need to handle themselves. However, someone could have been in a relationship. God damn, this white is killing me. God damn it. Yeah, it keeps jumping. Well, here's another one. It says, remember Prince, Another Lonely Christmas.
Yes, good one.
This song. And this shit keep jumping around. Where did it go? Just seen it. Isolate to elevate. Yeah, this shit is stupid. The thing about community and loved ones, you shouldn't always have to figure it out yourself. Sometimes it takes that community or love to recognize your state and how to be there to get you through it. Okay, there we go. The arm works. We're going to run it that way.
Figured it out.
And we are never going to sleep as creatives, but it also says no man is an island.
That's true.
It says that's just the case. It doesn't always pan out that way. And you can't truly know. God damn, why does it keep doing that? Hold on. There we go. You can't truly know who you are in isolation. Yeah. You can't truly know who you are in isolation. Where's that one? Chris. There it is. 10% is what happened to you. 90% is how you respond.
Okay. A lot of good truths there. Let's go to the isolation thing. I believe that there is some truth to not being able to know yourself fully through isolation. But isolation gives you the idea of what to strategize in regards to how you're going to deal with people. So, in essence, I'll give you the example of jumping out of one relation to another. You haven't given yourself time to, like, even in, like, if you haven't seen The Best Man Last Chapters, you should. Because it ends on a note where Harper talks to Jordan, and he, you know, now they're free to do what they've always wanted to do. And Jordan is the smart one in saying, you know what? You just got out of a relationship. Don't jump into anything new. And I've always commended people who've said that. Because a lot of times it's not even about the baggage. A lot of times you're still in that work on how you was with that other person.
You need actual ample time to reprocess how it is that you like to interact with people, reeling from the relationship that you just stopped with that last person.
Because you may have your guard up about specific things. Those triggers may be higher up, you know what I mean? And this other person does something similar to, now all of a sudden you triggered. And
you can have new ones.
Yeah. Because of how you're feeling, you need to be alone in order to respect what it is to be alone, in my opinion. And then when you get with someone, you're rebuilding a new relationship. You're not using the old relationship as a means of. So it's like a shaky foundation, and you're using that foundation to build something new on. Doesn't make any sense. Lady Muse said, "My grandma turned 80 this month and has lost all his." Oh, my grandpa. I'm sorry. My grandpa turned 80 this month and has lost all his siblings, but still smiles every day and watched Westerns, laughing out loud. Yeah, that's tough, man. That's tough. What's going on, Adrian? How you doing? I don't want it to fall more on a older age mindset, because that to me is the highest level of loneliness, in my opinion. I think when you're a child and maybe you're a single kid, or you're looking for space from, like, I have 4 brothers. So it was never really a time of being alone.
Could not be alone.
No, you know what I'm saying? We always played with each other, even if we didn't get along. There was always that sense of interaction. It wasn't until I got out on my own when I understood what it was to have my own. So then when I lived by myself for 23 years, it was just like, oh, this is, I can, there's a certain thing that comes with that. You know what I mean? When you're living with someone, you always have to be cognizant of being fair and knowing that this person may never get to that space of being able to respect you in that space. So being alone will teach you, okay, do I want to give this up? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like who I am, if I was married and had kids, I wouldn't be able to be the friend that I am to a lot of my friends. Because they're not able to be like that with others. I haven't met one married brother or brother that I know that's in a deep relationship that can get up and go and be there, the way they want to, if they hold that relationship in a high regard. Like it was like, well, I gotta check with her, and it's like, all right, I'm gonna do what I gotta do. And that's the one thing that I respect about anybody that will tell you, hey, I'm not going to always be available because, I have this other situation, or I have this going on. Loneliness is a thing that comes from feeling like you're missing out, or feeling like, I'll take it back to what you was talking about as far as being alone because you're misunderstood. That hits a lot of hyper creatives. That hits a lot of people who are thinkers.
Yeah.
Because most people who aren't thinkers will get out and go and do something.
Mm-hmm. Anything.
Mindless fun. Mindless
Anything.
fun. Anything. They're not going to say, man, I'm around, going back to the Janet Jackson song, people standing all around me. You know what I mean?
I've been the friend sitting there in the corner, watching while everybody's doing whatever they call fun.
Is that loneliness, or is that antisocial?
A little bit of both.
A little bit of both.
Yeah, it's because there's people that I care about, but I didn't really care to be there. It was just because
most people bore the shit out of me.
Yeah,
they do, and primarily because we're not on the same level, and that's not a thing of like my level's higher than their level. I always look at it as different platform levels. I'm over here, they're over here. Yeah. I don't look at it as this or that.
For them is we got to go to the club and I can have just as good a time, nigga, because we at the grocery store and we getting some good shit right
Absolutely.
now.
Because I know when you do, you're going to cook something amazing. So
you know what I mean? So,
that,
to me, though, those sort of things made more sense, but that is a bit of the sense of loneliness is if the majority or if it seems like the majority of people or a larger mass of people are focused on this is what fun is supposed to be. We seen it on TV. You know, let's go waste all this money on Balenciagas and all kind of stupid shit. You know, for them that is fun. For them that is exciting. For them that's meaningful, and so many other things. But the loneliness to me was always, yeah, you know, I fuck with these people. I care about them. You know, outside of whatever their you know, whatever it is that they subscribe to and focus on in this life, they're still good people to me. You know, I care about them and want the best. But nigga, I'm practically lonely when I'm around these fools because we focus on what the fuck they want to do. These niggas don't want to sit and read and, you know, whatever kind of weird shit I like doing. That's
but it's not weird.
That's non-typical or atypical.
It's a thing of. That's what I'm saying. I think with time you start to realize. There's something that I always tell people. An ounce of prevention is worth its weight in cure. I'm all about preventive measures, which is the reason why I study to this day martial arts and self-defense, because I don't want anyone to ever feel like they have the right to just do what they want to do around me when it comes to physical harm. So that's why I study. So to prevent, it's kind of like you get car insurance to protect yourself, and you know
car insurance because they said you got to get car insurance to drive your car and shit.
Yeah. I just always make sure I get a little bit more insurance, you know, but you're right, though. Michael Irwin says, learning yourself and growth can occur through journaling. It will shine a light over time on patterns, stagnation, and current growth. I'm reading journals from 2003. My third eye is open. Boy, I bet you it's some exciting
some
shit.
Retrospect. You know, that's huge for introspection to be able to go back.
Yeah. Well, that's part of what being alone does for you. Because
I hear that in my music. I'm like, what the fuck was I talking about?
Well, you were alone when you did it, right? Yeah, and you have to be alone to remember sometimes. And I've learned that, like, the people who get up and gotta have something going every day, all day, can't be home, I've knew people who were very, very affluent in LA and never was home. Had some of the best houses that you would ever, you know, pay money to see.
And they would never. Who can't sit in silence for too long.
They can't be by themselves. They cannot be by themselves. Most people, a majority of people, actually don't like themselves, which is why.
That's what I was about to.
Okay, I'm gonna let you take it. I'm gonna let you take it. Go ahead. I'm gonna let you take it.
I mean, man, it's just it's a form of actually low self-esteem. You know, perfect example is Martin Lawrence. You know, on his TV show, this cat is wild as shit. You know,
I met him once.
It's crazy as hell on his show, but in his personal life, he's actually very silent.
Yeah, he is.
He's very quiet, very shy dude.
Yep.
You know,
looked at me crazy when I was like, "Hey, Martin," he looked at me. I was like,
"He's not actually energetic. Isn't that fucking insane?"
Yeah.
But that's the mystery of the human mind, the human psyche. We find many different ways to mask what it is that we're actually feeling and going through. You know, and for a lot of those kind of people, they actually are alone. They're doing whatever it is that they think needs to be done to keep people from actually seeing them. You know, for whatever it is that they're going through or whatever it is that they're feeling. So many different things are associated with that escapism, but that's typically what it is about those people who can't sit in silence for too long, because then they'll be left with their own thoughts.
Yeah,
and that's not something that they want.
Yeah, obviously. I have no problem with my own thoughts. I actually enjoy my. Well, see, the thing is my thoughts are always are there regrets? There are regrets, but a lot of times it's about, okay, how can I better myself? How can I better a situation for those who I care about and those around me? And so I have no problem with being alone because, first off, you know, there's an old gospel song, sometimes I'm lonely but never alone. talking about, with Jesus in your life. Sometimes you're lonely, but you're never alone. That in itself. But on the other aspect too, because I always have people like, well, if you need to talk, blah, 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 blah. Most of the time I don't. And if I do, it's specific people because I've learned that you have to pick people who truly understand you and truly understand what you're going through. If the majority of people that's asking your attention as far as you telling them stuff, they wouldn't be able to even understand what you're going through. And so it may come back voided. You know what I mean? Because you're sitting there, you're talking about something that they can never understand, and they're going, hey, hey, I feel you, blah, 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 I'm here for you. And it's like, all right, yeah, but you gave me a lot of different suggestions, but no true answers.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's important a lot of times. What's going on, cousin? Yeah. So how do we help people who are going through bouts of loneliness? Now, if you've been diagnosed clinically, your medication is important. So make sure you're taking your medication and make sure you're listening to the doctor.
I won't say anything about that.
Yeah. If you're going to therapy, continue to go to therapy. If you're considering therapy is a very, very great thing.
It can be, yes.
Mm-hmm. If you have the right therapist.
If you haven't figured introspection out for yourself, definitely start with therapy.
Some of you may have friends who you can reach out to. Some of you may, remember we talked about the friendship episode, and some of these people need to go back and watch that.
Yeah.
You have to know if you truly have good friends. A lot of people
I
think
agree.
they have friends and they don't have really good friends. Because if you can't reach out to somebody in a time of need,
That's a type of community.
then you definitely feel alone because of that. What's going on, guys? So, what are some things that we can give examples to on working on not being alone?
Well, we got someone who says, this is why creating your own family traditions are important. Because even in age, you get to be around and see what you left for your family and something that isn't just monetary.
Yeah. Very interesting. Someone else had said traditions rather than holidays because traditions become more personalized. Holidays is something that everybody does, and it doesn't mean everybody agrees.
It doesn't mean anything to you, not on an intimate level.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that is important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is what I always say. Usually, you know who your closest friends are because they're in your will.
Some of these niggas ain't got will. Most of these niggas don't have wills.
Which they should. You should have a living trust and you should have a will. I just updated mine.
An irrevocable trust.
Yes.
So there can't nobody fight, can't nobody argue, can't nobody take.
Yes.
But that's for another episode.
Mm-hmm. It's coming up. Those things are coming up.
We'll get to it.
What else? What else should they know about if they're alone or if they feel lonely?
You got to work on your attitude, man. Introspection. I think, to me, a majority of what we go through in life is always going to go back to self.
Okay, let's take that. So, what if we have someone who's listening right now and they feel like nobody wants to be around them?
I was thinking even just the motherfuckers. This man, I cut people off so fast.
Mm-hmm. That's the opposite.
I don't care about people.
Okay.
You can walk out of my life. Nigga, I'm gonna be all right. And
okay.
What is the famous one? I can do bad all by myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which is false.
It's stupid.
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely stupid.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Who chooses? I get being alone at times. I need some solitude, some introspection, some space. But to actively, absolutely choose to be by yourself, for what?
Right. Is that coming from a place of animosity, or is that coming from a place of
damage,
trauma?
So many different things associated with that, and it's highly promoted in our culture. There's no person on this planet who makes it absolutely by themselves.
Yeah, nobody.
There's no such thing.
Nobody.
No such thing at all. You know, there's no way for that to work. There's no animal, no anything on this planet that makes it absolutely by itself. You know, the amount of people that we interact with, even those of us who are alone, you know, it's still people we got to interact with. Like, I got to be nice to the nigga at the Popeyes.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that they don't forget my sauce next time.
They got you again, brother.
Yeah, well, you know, it is what it is. I should have went up there. But you get what I'm saying. You know, at some level, you're going to have to interact with other people, and you got to show them appreciation. You got to show them love. Dick Gregory, one of his last sets that he has, and he was just talking. It wasn't like a comedy show. But he was just talking, and he opened his show. Most people open their show, and they thank God. They thank their families and all, you know, all of that kind of shit. But he said, everybody in here is looking good tonight. You know, everybody's dressed, and, you know, y'all made it here on time. I know, you know, just knowing what my ticket sales were like. Some of y'all came from so many different places. You know, so I want to take this time to thank the people who are at the airports right now, you know, moving the luggage between the plane and, you know, doing all of that kind of work. The motherfuckers who delivered the food, you know, to the different restaurants in these different places. The motherfuckers who did y'all hair and whoever it was that delivered and folded and hung up the clothes that y'all bought to be able to come here and be the way that you are right now. You know, we gonna thank the invisible people. That's an important attitude, change, important perspective. That I believe will enhance the quality of life for those who are choosing to be by themselves, which is insanity in my opinion. You know, you got to do the work on yourself, man, and start asking, you know, being by yourself is not always a great thing. Ask yourself why is it that you feel more comfortable? You know, I'm not saying that it's not a necessary function, you know, in this life to need solitude at times, but we all got to interact with somebody.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We got to.
Absolutely.
I spent, you know, I never went to jail, but I had some disciplinary action taken against me, man. And sitting in a room all day by yourself talking to the four walls.
Or talking to yourself.
Well, that's the thing. You end up talking to the walls. You get tired of talking to yourself. You know, you come up with so many other things, and everybody don't make it out of those environments. You know, one day spent like that is the same as years spent like that. You know, it's not for the human to be alone,
right,
or to be by themselves at least.
Yeah, but that's the analyzation that has to happen. One has to analyze, why do you want to be alone? When should you be alone?
Are you running from you know, the actual responsibility and duties of relationships and all the things that you're charged with when interacting with other humans? Because that's important.
Yeah, and you have to become a better judge of character, because the thing is maybe those situations happen for you to learn that you just can't make relationships with anyone and everyone. You know what I mean? Like, you know, a lot of times people get into this thing of making friends with people who are just off. And for whatever reason, they're just attracted to people who are
Broken
off.
people.
Yeah. And so when those
relationships, you, or that's what they attract.
Both.
Yeah.
And then when it all goes wrong, they're blaming the other person, and then it's like, no.
It still takes two to tango.
Yeah. And that's my point with being by yourself for a while. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying,
yeah.
You know, when I talk about having that lake by the house with the wolf dog, man, you know, I could have some concubines in the back of that house. I don't know what God gonna send my way. You know what I'm saying? I always tell my mom, I'm like, that's the, you know, the Skinner residence, the final Skinner residence. You know,
but it's one room.
Make it. Well, no.
I'm saying one room for you to have what you need. You know.
Yeah. Well, yeah. There you go. You know. But for her, she can have, you know, a garden and you know, other little things. You know, but that's just. I got to have that vision of knowing that's what I'm working towards, because, you know, a lot of people out there fooling themselves thinking, okay, I'm going to have, you know, 9 kids, I'm gonna be like, what's my man name?
Who, Nick Cannon right
Nick
now?
Cannon. I'm having all these kids. It's like you don't
He
have
got
Nick
some
Cannon money.
kids.
You don't have Nick Cannon's money. And then he's the next time you see him, he's complaining about not having time enough to go around and see all these kids. And he still got a life and he still got to work. How you doing, Farley? Yeah, Michael Irvin Walker said, because the majority of people are not smart.
No, they're
Not critical thinkers, insecure, not creative, blind to ego, do not appreciate reaching out. What is it? Reciprocity.
Reciprocity.
Yeah, they don't.
They don't reciprocate.
Reciprococate. That's exactly what he's saying.
We got to do some backgrounds or something for when we're reading these things.
Yeah. Reasons to be alone. Very much so. Michael, sounds like you're working on your next book, brother. On point tonight.
He could be practicing.
He's practicing. Yeah, he's practicing, man. I saw him in the gym. He's getting right, man. And I'm gonna be right up there with you as soon as I finish these deliverables. But and that's. But I also understand the fact that someone can be that hyper creative, or they can be alone for that specific amount of time, is what attributes to them being highly successful at their creativity of what they're looking to do. So in essence, you have to be alone to write a book. You have to be alone to, do certain things in your creative aspects. The odd thing is that Prince always, majority of the time, laid all his tracks by himself. He would send the engineer away. And this is before people can do what they're doing now with computers and stuff, and they can record themselves.
He might have felt more comfortable.
He did in regards to his creativity of what he was able to do. And Susan, if you ever get a chance to Susan Rogers, she's a very eloquent speaker. Oh, but she talks about, Prince had these alone moments where he did certain things, and we didn't know where he went or what he would do, and come back with this. He was able to create some of his finest work on his own. And I think that's something that has to be highlighted in a good way, because I don't want people who are watching the show to think, oh, well, something's wrong with me if I'm alone. No, you may need that time or the space in order to regroup and to reorganize yourself to come back to be able to be a better person amongst others. And that's how I always looked at it for myself. The times that I spend alone are times for me to regroup. There were times when, I think I told you the story. The only time I ever got a serious vacation was when I went to the DR, Dominican Republic. Yeah. And I went for 4 days by myself. I slept the first 2 and then figured out what I did on the 3rd and the 4th, on the day afterwards to come home. But I was so exhausted that I got there. I went to the beach with my camera thinking I'm going to take some photos. I sat in the cushion, and then I said, you know what? I felt myself going to sleep. And that self-defense kicked in. I'm like, yeah, nah, man, nah. So I went to the hotel room. I didn't wake up. And it was around 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. I didn't wake up to the next day, 5 o'clock. I was that exhausted. I had never been that tired ever in my life, and it was Daphne telling me, "Babe, you gotta go for a vacation."
But you needed space.
I needed
to be able to release like that.
Yeah, but mind you, still you're not alone, right? Because you get out, you go, and it's all inclusive. You go to eat, somebody's gonna be there talking to you, and that goes back to the Dick Gregory thing. Because who I am when I'm not by myself. When I'm by myself, I can be miserable. And I choose to be miserable sometimes. Sometimes I want the weight of the world on me so that way I can go through that process. But then when I get around other people, I'm smiling. And it's not an act. It's really, I want other people to feel better about their moments or about their interaction with me. You know what I mean? I don't really care about what people say or think, but I do care about my connection with that person and what it did for them. That's important to me. Or else I'll keep to myself. And because if I know that I can't be that, that's a moment where I say, you know what, I need to be by myself. I need to be alone. Like, just don't bother me. I'll be okay. Just don't bother me. Let me be alone. And then I'll come back on a page that I can be
Actually interact at the
yeah,
level necessary.
because nobody wants to be around a dick. When you know you're a dick, why would you be your biggest dick around everybody else? You know what I mean?
No, because for some people, that is how they get through life, is making other people feel how they feel.
That's horrible. That's horrible, man.
But it makes them comfortable.
But you know what? Was I at that space? Maybe a little bit.
You make other people feel uncomfortable so that you can feel
For
comfortable.
power, for a sense of power. But I realized that wasn't the route that I wanted at all. I had no desire to be there or to be that. And that made me go a different direction. You know?
Let's see. We got Will Greenwell. Good man. I think there's quite a few lonely people due to no social skills from continuous social media interaction and just being plain stupid. So there are a lot of lonely people that have no social skills due to continuous social media. Oh, wait. Why did that paste twice? Whatever. But yeah.
Very much so. Very much so. You know, it's easier for people to engage in conversation from behind the keyboard nowadays.
Yeah.
Or to even cuss each other out and say things they normally wouldn't say to somebody in their face.
They would never interact with someone at that level.
Now, there are people who are behind the keyboard because I've seen this, and this is something that has been more prevalent nowadays because, you know, we have a problem in this country with weight. You know, people are huge.
Yes, they are.
And they stay behind the computer, and that's how they live, and that's how they interact with everybody. But they're very lonely. They're very lonely, and this is something funny. I always tell all of my acting students, the men who are, you know, because women they don't realize it, but no, women realize it. Especially if you're a hot chick and you're in Hollywood, you know that you got fans all over the world, right? But the guys, they're kind of clueless sometimes, and I'm like, man, some big woman in the Midwest or in the South is looking at your Instagram page every day, admiring you, knowing she'll never get to have you. That's your job as a good-looking man. You know what I mean? To tease, to every now and then thirst trap, let them know that they are appreciated.
Right.
and you know, as creatives, man, we sometimes help lonely people. We help lonely people. I went through that with Never Surrender. There was a song by Corey Hart, rock song that I used to love. I was deep into rock in my teen life, and that song helped me. Him and Mark helped me through my teenage years. Mark helped me through my high school. Never Surrender helped me through my teenage, that turbulent time when you don't know what's going on and you're going through your,
Getting out in the world, man.
Yeah.
Figuring out who it is that you're going to be.
Yeah, man.
No, you all good, Will.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So, we need to read this, just a little bit of it. Yeah. We don't need to go over all of it too much, but it's time for you guys to bear in mind that we are an up-and-coming 33-episode deep baby, and we need your help. We need you guys to look out for us going into the new year. Especially now, we got some stuff going on here.
We're running out of resources, goddammit. Nah, man, just crowdfunding.
Mm-hmm.
You feel me? Some crowd support. All of those sort of things are important. Especially, again, I cannot stress it enough that we're looking to fully migrate over to YouTube, man. So, go to our link tree, which I'll get to here in a moment.
Mm-hmm.
But help us move over to YouTube so that we can really get this, the energy of the show boosted and elevated and, just into an even better form than it already is. So, in any event, this has been a very intimate show.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about people being lonely and such.
Lonely, yeah.
Not having one another or self or whatever. And for those reasons, I want to let you guys know that you can reach out to us because we'll help you get intimate. We know how to be extremely intimate. And I'd be glad to pass that sort of art right on to you. So if you were interested in how to become that intimate, You can reach out to us on Instagram at CMCT_show. We also have a Facebook at CMCT Show. The YouTube that I keep stressing to you all that we would love to move over to, because then we'll get some more money rolling up through this month. You know what I'm saying? That YouTube page is at CMCT_show. We also have a Twitter. Do we use Twitter? We got one. It exists. And that Twitter is at CMCT_show. Now you can also email us. We'll probably email you back. We won't incriminate ourselves, but we will email you back. Mm-hmm. You can hit us with show ideas, interview requests, partnerships, sponsorships. And that email is at cmctshow@gmail.com. Don't put an at before the email. If that was confusing for you. We also have a TikTok. We actually got videos on TikTok now too.
Do. Yes.
That's a few, you know what I'm saying?
TikTok's getting caught up.
We coming up in this this age of information, putting all of our everything out there. So that TikTok is at CMCT_show. Next and most important is the link tree, the aforementioned link tree. If you go to linktr.ee, because that's how they put their fucking website, whatever.
Go figure.
If you go to that website and you scroll all the way to the bottom, for some fucking reason, the niggas at Linktree put their search box at the bottom of their webpage. So whatever, scroll to the bottom, and if you click into that search box and begin to type in CMCT_show, and our Linktree page will pop up. And on that Linktree page, right there at the top, we have a tipping option if you want to tip us. You know what I'm saying? I do believe that tipping option is directly through PayPal, right? But we also have other payment options on there as well. Cash App, Venmo, check, food stamp, whatever. Send it to us. You know what I'm saying? We'll make do. And, then we also offer 3 services currently. And the first one is a personal video. If you feel like we can say something, or if you feel like he could bust a couple dance moves that would motivate someone that you care about and help them get through the week.
And look, we wearing the New Year's hats. We already decided.
You know what I'm saying?
I'll go as far as wearing a hat.
I'll wear a hat. That's the best I could do for you. But we'll be happy to motivate, educate, inspire, stimulate. You know what I'm saying?
Somebody waved at the same time.
Yeah, you know, we're willing to stimulate a paying viewer. You know what I'm saying? For $20, we'll make you a 2-minute video fulfilling a majority of different requests.
What if they hit us up and said, do the cuff it challenge, man? Can you imagine that?
I'll do it without enthusiasm. Zero enthusiasm. I'll do it, but I ain't gonna like it. And I definitely won't do it in a way that's gonna
incriminate you.
Not even that. That's gonna fuck with my principles and my values. You know what I'm saying? Any event, the next service that we offer is a venting consultation.
Oh, by the way, Farley, I did the cuff it challenge. Tell him he's no longer in my cool class.
Sorry to hear about that. Niggas get kicked out every day. You know what I'm saying?
Every day, B.
Listen. So venting consultations, why? We're calling it that because we're not lawyers and we ain't got money to pay nobody for any sort of litigation. So understand that it is a venting consultation. However, we're offering you the absolute best guidance that we can give you to help you get through whatever it is that you're dealing with in this crazy, raggedy ass, trifling ass world. Okay? whatever it is that you need to talk about. Our main focus is to help you find a viable solution that is both reasonable and achievable, okay? Attainable. And that is for $59 an hour, holiday prices, up until January 1st, wherein we'll go back to the $100 an hour. So feel free to reach out, and we'll get you scheduled, all right? Lastly, this is a $75 option, and it comes with bells, whistles, cherries on top, all kind of shit. And that is a 15 to 20 minute pre-recorded interview that we will post on our page and help you promote. The reason why it's pre-recorded is because we want to give you the option to, in post-production, present yourself as you would like your brand given to the world, as you would like your likeness shared with the world. Okay? So nothing will be live, but we can do edits if you want. You know what I'm saying? A hologram of yourself in the video. We'll figure out how to do that. 'Cause I don't think we got all of that yet. But we know how to edit a video, man, and make it top quality and film like. Again, that is a 15 to 20 minute interview for $75, and we'd be more than happy to do that for you. Lastly, my brother has an Instagram, and that is at DARKAN, the number 2000, Darkon2000 on Instagram. So please go and follow him. He also has a Twitter at DARKANENT. That is Darkon ENT. Follow the man. I guess he uses his Twitter.
I do.
Nope, there you go. He said it himself from the horse's mouth. He uses his Twitter. I got Twitter, but I don't use that shit. Not for you know what I'm saying?
For posting.
Yeah, I don't use Twitter for couth reasons. I also have an Instagram, and that is at _DOSAGE, _dosage. I also have a music page on Instagram at _MA. You can find me on all streaming platforms. Please go and enjoy some of the old and new music that I have posted up there. I got a new project coming here pretty soon. Releasing after the new year, that is.
Catching up.
Yes, sir. So, that does it.
In summation, guys, nothing wrong with being alone as long as it's not being alone for egregious reasons and or because you have no other choice.
Because you can't get along with other human beings.
Mm-hmm.
If you got work to do, introspection, therapy,
Mm-hmm.
What do they call it? They got schools that people can go to now.
Interesting. Didn't know that.
Character building. You know, you may have things that you need to let go of.
Mm-hmm.
New things that you need to expose yourself to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And on the other end, if you're a person who are afraid to be alone, then, you know, you need to work on that introspection for that, because sometimes being alone makes you strong. You just have to figure it all out. Figure it all out. And, you know, we're here talking about that tonight because it's a very important topic. And
There
yeah.
it is.
So if there's any other questions or any other statements, guys,
Please let us know.
yes, and don't forget you can always hit us on our email, and in regards to donating to the show, the link tree is the best way to reach us.
Yes, please send us shit that we can go to the pawn shop with. You know what I'm saying? Send us shit we can go to the pawn shop with.
No
all
doubt.
right?
No doubt.
You know, we want to be able to hit y'all with the fancy neon light and all of that shit in the background. So it's gonna take a couple trips to the pawn shop.
Did you have somebody wanting to get in the show?
That was Pops earlier.
Oh, okay.
He always does it right at the beginning of the show, and
Okay.
it's just not time yet. I
Okay.
appreciate your enthusiasm though. Thank you, Pops, for tuning in. Good man.
All right, guys. So we will be here Thursday night, our
Yes, sir.
last show of the year. Wow, look how far we've come, and we got so much further we want to go. And we thank you guys for chiming in and tuning in with us tonight. Thursday night would be pop culture, but we will be doing a review of the year. So I guess if you have some of the craziest stuff you want to talk about, Thursday night would be the night to talk about that, and also what's going on in the news, and also just some random thoughts that we may have. You know, may wing it. It may end up being a bigger show than
We'll see.
just our normal time slot. So we don't know. Depends on how much fun we have with whatever hats we have on.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna be wearing a hat.
Gonna
A
surprise
party
you.
hat nonetheless.
No doubt, no doubt. So look forward to that night. Yeah, hopefully this was a blessing to you guys. And got anything else to add, brother?
Take care of these kids, goddammit.
Yeah. Oh, please. Yeah, absolutely.
Keep giving back to these children.
Mhm.
They need us.
Mm-hmm.
They need us badly, and we need them for the future.
Yeah.
All right?
All right.
That wraps it up.
Yes,
Thank you,
sir.
everybody, for tuning in. We really appreciate you all. Everybody have a good night. And I guess I'll say on Thursday to have a safe new year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, wait for it then.
I hope y'all niggas enjoyed Christmas. Have a good night. All right.
Santa gave him everything they wanted.
Muscles on his lonely
Man,
path.
Boy, that's so many pictures with families sitting on Santa's lap.
I don't speak for all
One of my
rap.
friends,
I'm your mechanic.
African,
I don't want
his
no
little
parts of
girl
that. Keep
screaming,
throwing
"Get
darts and
me
wax."
away from this
No,
white
beat
man."
yeah, she should. This nigga, that shit is weird, man.
Came to wrestle.
What the fuck is wrong with these people?
I'm gonna find a photo. It was because he commented on it. I was like, she was just like, no.
I've been staying blue black, straight from where the news
What's
at.
going on, Nate?
Lifeside showdown, story I survived.
Take care, Michael
Man,
Irvin.
the line remotes down, painting what I wrote now. I imagine it, I'ma grope the canvas. Every stroke is passionate, asking why he smashing shit. I'm just practicing so I can get it in when it's out. Ain't no accidents, for real. Please stop the BS, for real is on purpose, for real. Everything I do this for real. Every single time. I do this for real. That's all that I know. Please stop the BS, for real is on purpose, for real.